All right, welcome everyone. It's great to have you all here today for our Narrativa webinar, The New Age of Generative AI for Marketing. And I'm Jennifer Bittinger. I'm your host today. I am the president of Narrativa and thrilled to have you all here to talk about this exciting topic and then also hear from our guests. So first, I'll introduce Genesis. Welcome, Genesis, if you'd like to give a brief intro.
Yeah. My name is Genesis Capinaton. I work for Initiative, which is a media agency, part of the Interpublic group of companies. There's about 50,000 of us globally. I'm the head of B2B for a particular tech telecom account partner. I've been working in B2B marketing for probably a decade and a half or so, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, Genesis. And Matthew, welcome. Please give a brief intro.
Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Rector. My job at Narrativa is essentially to own and provide oversight of our client relationships with respect to content creation and publication. My background is in content project management, managing the entire life cycle from ideation to completion, answering questions like, what are we creating that speaks to a strategy? How are we building a brand or a community around this? How are we marketing our content? How are we distributing our content? I have to say, Gen AI, generative AI, as we're going to talk about today, it's a game changer. And in this regard, I'm happy to be speaking about it today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for being here today. And I will pass the baton now to Matt as he will be sharing the first part of this session. And then Genesis will be following up. And thank you so much. Take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it. This webinar today is meant to be a thought starter, right? We're going to be talking about what generative AI is, of course, as you would assume by the title, and how it's applicable when it comes to marketing. Basically, generative AI, if you're not familiar, it differs from traditional artificial intelligence. Traditional artificial intelligence, excellent at data analysis, pattern recognition, and Gen AI can do all that and more. It's essentially a tool that creates original marketing content, articles, white papers, email blasts, in response to your requests, prompts, as we'll get into in just a second, that you might submit over to it. It's more customized and it's produced faster. Helps you reach more consumers, which we'll get into as well. I'll skip over these quotes today through the webinar. You'll have a takeaway, a handout after this. Please feel free to read these. We find them very impactful and they really sum up what we're going to be talking about today. The adoption of generative AI. Generative AI in marketing is gaining a lot of momentum. McKinsey, the consulting agency, they report over 90% of marketing executives plan to invest in Gen AI in just over 2 years. We'll go ahead and move over to the next slide here. Research indicates, this is a big one. Research indicates that companies and brands that invest in artificial intelligence are seeing 3 to 15% increases in their revenue, 10 to 20% increases in their sales ROI, right? Companies that invest in generative AI, not just AI, but generative AI, are going to see the greatest benefits overall. They're going to be toward that upper tier there. With that said, now that we have an understanding of what generative AI is, I will pass it over to Genesis, who's going to talk about the revolution when it comes to using generative AI in marketing. So with that, Genesis, please feel free.
Yeah, no, thank you, Matt, for that. Yeah, so some of you might think the term revolution might be a little too dramatic, but it is a paradigm shift in terms of the type of data that we can use specifically for AI platforms, the new type of content, hence the term generative, could be created through an AI mechanism in data, the automation of things. So revolution might be too strong of a word, but it's certainly a paradigm shift, a specific advancement in technology and how people relate to technology. Although I'll be talking about marketing, I'll be kind of intersplicing a little bit of the talk of B2B marketing and marketing in general, as well as AI and things like that. I'll provide some context to what's really going on in the marketing world that is affecting a lot of B2B sellers, as well as a lot of B2B buyers for that matter. But so today's buyers, I just wanted to start off with some context. So really in the last few years, the makeup, the composition of the B2B buyers have been changing quite a bit. Millennials are now in their early 40s, and they're making a larger kind of segment of the B2B buying committee. When I first started working in B2B, working for, B2B marketing programs, or we're selling all kinds of different tech, from ERP software to CRM, construction software, in enterprise software. The buying committees or the buyers would be relegated to maybe one, two to three kind of decision makers. Typically, these people would be in a chief technology officer or a chief finance officer or a chief information officer, that type of thing. But in the last 10 years, the committee's changed quite a bit. It's no longer 2 to 5 people, but it's more so 9 to 20 people now. And there's many different reasons why that's happening. So there's a lot of technology products out there that will affect more than one business group. So a lot more business decision makers are kind of being involved in the committee itself, as well as the influencers that affect that committee. One key thing that this slide talks about is the fact that really at the end of the day, a lot of the newer people part of the buying committee at these B2B companies don't even want to talk to a salesperson until much later in the process. The millennial audience, and from 26 to 40 and a little bit of their early 40s, they do all of their research before they even talk to a human being. 60% go to suppliers' websites, so that's extremely important. Attending a webinar, there's a lot of information kind of resource collection that they do before they even bring to the committee and before they even reach out. On top of it, the sales cycles are much longer now. And they used to be maybe 3 to 4 months, maybe on the average. Now it's 6 months to 2 years now. And in some cases, actually, when vendor searches start, there's a percentage of the vendor searches that don't even end up with a decision. So anyway, so the buying journey, if you will, or the research journey for these people, part of the buying committee, they're spending a lot of time online consuming content as much as possible regarding a potential vendor. And that's where the beauty, I think, of the things that we worked on at Narrativa, or the teams worked on at Narrativa, is helping automate this content. And creating content is not easy. It involves data manipulation, data cleaning, to really build out content in a more streamlined way. So this is what that slide just really talks about, is the new younger buyer, their avoidance of salespeople, as well as the longer sales cycle. The next slide specifically talks about, well, the consideration set. Some people might have not heard of that term, but it's really just it's a list of vendors that you had in the back burner at some point, that if there was an ERP software that you knew at some point you were looking for or going to look for your organization, you had a short list of people or companies that you were considering, right? So that's what the consideration set is. Now, it's the consideration set, and making it and the consideration set is extremely important. In that first metrics, in the starburst up there in the top of the slide, really there's a 5% chance overall. And this is from Gartner and her Harvard Business Review. They did a study on this. 5%. There's a 5% chance that a B2B seller will be selected if they are not on the original consideration list and they're discovered during the search process. So you have a more than 95% chance of not being selected if you're not making it on the original consideration list. But another way of looking at it is, if you actually do make it on the day one consideration list, the short list to be selected, you will actually have a 55% chance of being selected. So even if you make it on the list, there's almost 50 chance that you'll make it. And I said earlier, about a 40% chance. Usually these type of searches for a new vendor, whether it's been biotech or pharma, ERP, CRM, construction software, any of that type of thing, about 40% are the search efforts don't really lead to a decision. So that's something to keep in mind. So the natural question is, how do you make it on the consideration set? How do you become aware? So there's a couple things. One is being aware or making people aware of your offerings. If you have a long line of, I hate to use the term breadcrumbs, but it seems to fit, breadcrumbs set of content. You have press releases, you have a set of research papers, white papers, articles, as well as even your brand awareness type of awareness campaigns that your investor may not be investing in. That's how you get onto the consideration list. But if you're going to go the route, which I highly recommend, of building out a portfolio of really great content at different stages. There's different stages like consideration and awareness. So, building white papers and articles around specific solutions, case studies that you've done to help pull together solutions for a past client. Then, if you're a big fan of that and you want to be in automating that and creating content that is first initially generated by machine learning, generative AI, and then is finished off with a human touch at some point, it will certainly increase the amount of content that your company could create to use as lead magnets to create and generate leads for lead nurture. But in order to do that, Forrester really created this framework that I thought was great about the different elements of creating a program to create AI generated content, creating a vision, governance is extremely technology, data readiness has been highlighted because in my experience, and I think Narrativa would agree as well, their experience, this is really the biggest hurdle. This data readiness process of the type of first party and third party data that you have access to and how clean it is efforts and projects you can start now without even, before you even figure out an AI platform you want to use, or if you an AI platform you want to build proprietary wise, you can start with data readiness and the mechanisms that go into place almost immediately. For internal data resources, I've worked with a lot of clients where data is just not in a structured way, and it's not in a clean way. And there's third-party sources like RSS feeds that if your internal data is not good, there's a ton of RSS feeds in different categories. If let's say your life sciences and bio and pharma, biotech and pharma, there is, probably 100 RSS feeds you could use to manipulate, put into an ingestion platform such as Narrativa's platform, and generate at scale large amounts of different data. Different reports, white papers, and research. So that's important to keep in mind. The next slide talks about um, thought leadership itself going into that. Edelman and LinkedIn just released this year about how do you create a leading edge set of content pieces for your organization. Again, thought leadership is extremely important. Rethinking good thought leadership pieces and articles really challenge a lot of B2B buyers and buying committees kind of understanding of what their challenge is in their respective industry. Stimulating that reframing of that challenge is a terrific angle for thought leadership, number one. There's also some research and evidence that effective thought leadership, has influence on sales and pricing for some of these buying committees, some of these B2B buyers. So that's an important angle to really think about when you're building out your editorial kind of structure for the type of content article pieces you should be producing. Offense is your best defense. So basically going after specific companies that you want to do business with, I think it's that type of offense is really your best defense at the end of the day. At the same time, though, using content with existing customers to land and expand is the B2B term, I guess, to land and expand your current business with them. And number four, despite the clear power thought leadership, emphasizing specifically business results, change management results, brand results, brand impression results, that some of your technology or some of your services have changed some of the B2B buyers that have enlisted your services would be great to overemphasize specifically in content that's generated. And then effective thought leadership really has three pillars. Talks about, again, data, which I mentioned earlier. It helps to understand business, B2B buyers and their challenges and concrete guidance specifically. And, the actionable next steps and things that I should remember, things that I could actually do in the short term with my organization, any type of information highlighted in, this type of thought leadership piece, articles, white papers, is also extremely important to emphasize. And then the next slide talks about really one key thing. I talked about targeting, kind of your offense is your best defense type thing. The left-hand current model, if I think there's marketers in the room, that is the traditional demand generation brand awareness model. They call it a sales cycle or a purchase funnel. It begins with awareness. What I mentioned earlier in the last slide is all the way down to purchase or conversion. So that is still the model, even though it's no longer in my mind a clean funnel like that. It's all over the place, but that's the basic thinking of stages when you basically get awareness from clients or potential clients, I should say, potential buyers that are not aware of you. They become aware of you. They become a lead. They download a white paper in exchange for an email address or something to that effect. They request a demo, any type of things, and then they just get lead nurtured. They might not buy within the first month, but they might buy within 3 or 6 months. So, but lead nurturing them, is that current model. The targeted model is not a new model, but it's becoming a more popular model. It's also called an ABM model, ABM account-based marketing, targeted model, those type of things. I've seen actually companies targeting maybe 25 to 30 companies that they know they want to do business in, they want to do business with. Let's say there's an ERP software company that wants to target United Airlines and General Electric, or they want to target Bank of America. There's a specific media plan that's in more of an upside down funnel rather than the current kind of purchase funnel. That there's a set of assets, whether it be, bespoke, specifically ads that you could target, make people aware that actually have that extension, United Airlines, Boeing, General Electric, whatever. And then as well as customize assets for those particular industries, as well as those companies. And it's really a constant flow of information about your company to those specific companies. I personally have seen, one client that's done this, that targeted 25 different companies. Within 2 quarters, they generated $50 million in revenue from just 10 of these specific customers they targeted. So ABM, ABA, account-based advertising, ABX, account-based experience, they all are coming on board online in a more effective way. And AI is really helping in that, especially in the targeting aspect, is in addition to obviously the AI generated content that's being used to be customized to these specific kind of brand experiences that are brand kind of targeted towards like Boeing or Bank of America, those type of things. And I'm not really suggesting that the targeted model, replace the current model, but there is more and more these models living together. And I'm seeing a lot of revenue or budget allocation splits between 70% the current model and the 30% ABN model. So, and everything in between, pretty much. So it's a great way of using AI. Another use case specifically around ABM targeting, specifically. And then the next slide goes into really the importance of ABM and targeting. So revenue expansion, demand metrics in that lower right-hand side, that lower right box. Demand metric and RollWorks, they found companies using ABM for more than a year have increased their revenue 10 to 19%, some as high as 30%. Like I said earlier, the larger but education, the traditional media allocation, well, I mean, and for most companies, 99% is that traditional purchase funnel. Now they're seeing a decrease in that, maybe taking 30%, 37% away and using that for specific ABM programs. 55% of marketing professionals use ABM now for new revenue and existing customer expansion. So it's important to note that ABM could be used not for just targeting new clients, but using ABM, and again, using AI to create that content, that targeting for existing companies, that existing customers that you use to expand their book of business as well. Analyzing the opportunities for where the portfolio of products that you offer that could be, upsold to a current customer, AI could provide in that predictive analysis as well. And 58% of B2B marketers that actually are using ABM are seeing just generally larger deal sizes. So that's one way of looking at AI in terms of a use case. The next slide talks about the content across many channels, and social media does is in terms of awareness. And social media is requires a lot of content pieces. Obviously, it's a channel that is designed to be refreshed constantly, and it's an opportunity to build community. And there's different types of social media aspects. Obviously, Instagram is visually based. LinkedIn is professional, a lot of job related, kind of job seeking type of situations. Facebook, or Meta, I should say, is community building. So there's many different ways you can use social media. And then there's other related adjacent social media, whether it be Reddit or G2, or Trust Radius, that people use as really community sites, third-party sites to rate software or technology or even telecom, before they even begin their vendor search, before they start even creating their consideration set list. So this just gives you an idea of where the breakdown from all the way from social media. Converged TV or connected TV is the very lowest one. But as of late, over the last few months, with the resurgence of fast TV, which is free ad-supported television like Pluto, some of you guys might have Pluto. Of course, there's also different ad-supported versions of Netflix now, as well as Amazon Ads, which flooded the market. Connected TV, free ad-supported or fast TV, those type of technology pieces or channels, I should say, still retain that linear broadcast reach, which a lot of people love about linear broadcast. But one thing that a lot of buyers don't like about linear broadcast is it doesn't really have the tracking capabilities that digital does, and CTV seems to be the bridge. Podcasting, non-scripted, reality-based podcasting, whether it be business podcasts, even crime is huge that people advertise against. For business decision audiences, IT, BDMs as well, business decision makers around the IT and tech space. Podcasting is a great area for them to research information as well. Creating content for podcasting as well. Some of those elements could be AI driven, as well. So the next slide also talks about the 95-5 rule, and some of you might have heard of this. This is just something to keep in mind when you're building out your program. 95% of the companies you're targeting really in market are basically not in market really to buy anything. Really, at any given time, there's really about 5% of the companies that are willing to buy something within 3 months are active to buy now, 3 to 6 months. So when you're running these campaigns, these content syndication programs that are AI driven or even ad programs, it's daunting to think that when you're running these campaigns, there's only 5% of active audiences that are ready to buy your product now. So the vast majority of the people that you're marketing to are not ready to buy. But that's important to note, because that's an opportunity to build brand, and it actually builds up future buyers over a period of time. So really, the marketing media content investment you make pays out in larger dividends over a period of time once you build brand awareness. And once you build brand awareness on the B2B side, you basically have a few benefits if you have strong brand awareness. One is and brand equity. One is larger deal sizes. Number two is the sales cycles are shorter. Number three is the retention is higher. They become your customer. They're your customer for a while. Narrativa's had some customers that have been around for years, that type of thing. Although it had probably a nascent brand, Narrativa, much stronger brand now, obviously. So the retention rates are much higher now. That's just a small example. So it's important to layer in your marketing and content strategy of how you're going to develop the story about your company through the type of content you offer, the overall narrative of your brand, the problems that you face. And I've seen really successful companies, instead of really just B2B companies, just and even just consumer products for that matter as well, companies that don't companies that refrain from doing the normal thing of, hey, this is what we do and this is who we are, and just listing that out is one approach, but that is not as successful as some companies like I've seen with some newer technology companies that have really just kind of envisioned or future casted a vision of the type of company they could be if they use your technology. Slack did a good job. Hey, by the way, using Slack for your B2B enterprise, have you thought about this replacing email and all the benefits of basically sending emails or attachments right away, having immediate face-to-face video or an audio dialogue right away without using email? So, not saying that people should stop using email, but Slack provided a great alternative to a problem that a lot of people saw is the latency around email. But they in their ads as well as their positioning and the content they provided, it was an interesting thing because they said, "Hey, we're Slack. Instead of telling you guys what all the product features we offer, we're going to tell you specifically the type of organization you can be by using our technology." So anyway, the next slide, the 7-Eleven Forward rule. Basically, it's the zero moment of truth. This is a Google approach. I've seen it very successful. So a potential buyer really spends 7 hours of research, in 11 places like your website, your social media channel, your podcasting, your all the different channels. Email is one, and top four locations. Identifying the top four locations that these sellers spend time in, whether it be your corporate website as well as your social media page on LinkedIn or that type of thing. Knowing that there's a 7-Eleven, at least providing 7 hours of research, 11 places in four locations that needs content, that needs either audio content, video content, or obviously written content. So the question for a lot of B2B marketers, sellers are asking themselves, do I have enough? Do I have the right partnerships basically to fulfill that as well? So this is an important kind of metric to understand, that there's a lot of research, going back to the original slide of how much research this new buying committee does before they even make a decision or before they even start a search. And then next slide really is transitions over to more ways to target customers with content. And this is obviously building a brand architecture, attributes, benefits, culture, user value, personality. This is who you are. This is why you exist. This is the value you bring to the table. Creating a media plan, it's important. There's different media plans, above the line, below the line, to integrate demand generation, which is inbound marketing. Basically, these magnet kind of opportunities to drive people to your website, to a salesperson to generate a lead. ABM is wrapped up in that as well. Ensure that your website is strong. So meaning strong is that it's trackable. If it has a demo opportunities, net new user acquisition patterns, meaning if there are new users that are visiting your site and you're tracking them, what companies are they coming from? If you're using an ABM targeted program, like you're targeting General Electric or United Airlines, and you're doing these programs, are these people with these extensions, unitedairlines.com or whatever their extension is, united.com, are they visiting your website? Which pages are they visiting? Which pages are they spending the most time on? Giving, really getting an understanding basically of the customer journey. And then invest in AI, I think. I mean, there's many different things. AI is obviously kind of a hype word, but even simply using AI to define what type of competitors compete with you. Obviously Bard and Chat GPT, they could easily provide, hey, what is my competitors? Just type in your company. What's the largest industry players in my in particular industry? Which companies, competitors actually producing the most revenue? Even that type of research is great. All the way and everything in between: sales pattern analysis, CRM analysis, predictive analysis of where kind of what products we might be performing better, and as well as the things that Narrativa provides. So obviously, is content generation, creating ads on the fly as well, which Matt will talk about in some of those use cases. So these are just kind of key takeaways. And then I think next section, I think, is Matt.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So that's the revolution, guys, right? I think from here, we need to talk about how we're going to grow from there, how we're going to accelerate this. How are we going to take these strategies and distill them down into tactics at this point, right? What will that look like in terms of using AI to create content? One of the things I want to touch on here really fast is how marketers are actually using content right now, using generative AI for content, I should say. Content creation, copywriting. Over on the right, you see that graphic. Inspire creative thinking, analyze market data, generate images. Right up at the top, content creation and copywriting. I don't want to say these are the lowest hanging fruit, but these are the ones that everyone really has exposure to already. And they understand that AI can be used in this way to create content. Marketers are recognizing this, and it's fast growing. On the next slide here, the advantages of generative AI created content. Gen AI creates various types of content quickly and efficiently with customizable parameters. I think we've pretty much covered that already. Gen AI efficiently sifts through vast content volumes to extract relevant material. This really what it does, it enables scalability, right? We want to be able to grow quickly. And while a human might be really good at providing instruction, the AI is really, really beneficial when it comes to scale, right? Content production can be scaled ad infinitum, essentially, without really expanding your team size. And that's a really huge advantage. Content personalization. This is absolutely crucial. If you want someone to buy, you have to make your content more personalized, especially with today's buyers. Generative AI really allows for that tailored content. In addition to that, content enhancement, right? Some of the things that we as humans can miss from time to time, a period here, a question mark there, AI can certainly help with. It corrects grammar, it can transcribe, it can translate content into different languages. In fact, over here at Narrativa, we focus on 29 different languages that we can translate between. And then content optimization here. Generative AI can be used to optimize content for better SEO. Let's talk about this one for just a second. Say this kind of goes hand in hand with personalization, but let's say that you really are interested in upgrading your performance on on search engines, right? Like Google. We can actually take keywords, integrate them into the content to have it have some sort of context here that can help your content better perform on search engines like Google. That's really key because going back to what Genesis said, that's going to get your content in front of the right audience. Content automation, this one's key. We at Narrativa, we're a content automation company that uses generative AI, but really this streamlines all the processes when it comes to marketing. It's meant to be a solution where you're introducing data, like Genesis had mentioned up at the top there, right? You want data to be clean and we want to get it primed, right? Platforms can ingest data. They apply AI to those specific data points that were brought over. And then that gets applied to a template essentially. And then it gets sent out to an endpoint for you to integrate it or use however you see fit. The next slide here really talks about Narrativa, right? What we do and how it relates back to what we touched on in the beginning with McKinsey. Some of the most significant value areas that we address here at Narrativa: dynamic content, lead identification, marketing optimization, that's SEO optimization and the like, sales records, insights, marketing and sales analytics. All of these are data intensive or use data in some way. We at Narrativa, we obviously help you with that. And the reason we term this section the acceleration is because really that helps you accelerate your potential as a company. And that's what we try to help you do. I do want to touch on a couple anecdotes here. Wall Street Journal, Dow Jones, Infobuy, they're clients of ours. They've utilized both their own data and third-party data to automate the creation of content, marketing, content, white papers, whatever it might be, and engaging articles as well. I do want to talk about a couple success stories here. This is my favorite anecdote to mention to anyone who I'm essentially evangelizing our technology to, right? Infobuy is an international Argentinian online newspaper. This is something, like I said, I say quite frequently because I think it's so powerful. Gives you an idea of content automation at scale, really. A team of just 2 editors last year in 2023 created 200,000 news articles. That's a 110 increase in organic traffic over the course of 3 years. Went from 120 million to 240 million. But again, that's just 2 people. They created a system on their own to really say, okay, we've proofed this content enough. The platform's essentially pumping out content that we're okay with. We're going to go ahead and put that on autopilot. We're comfortable with it. It will be sent off to the website. And then they had a different bucket, essentially, of content where they wanted to take a more of a fine-tooth comb, and they wanted to go over it and make sure that they were comfortable with it, and provide their own polish, add their own polish and the like to that. That process alone, and again, that's unique to them, allowed them to do so much at scale, to create so much content. The other success story I want to highlight here, GSG, Global Savings Group, they are a commerce content and affiliate marketing company. They operate discount code and deal sites. I'm sure you've seen some of their brands out there while you're looking or shopping yourselves. But this really helps highlight direct cost reduction. They were able to reduce the cost of freelancers, to generate advertising messages for their coupon sites by over 80%. We like to highlight here that this is just more effective. You want to make sure you're getting more content out there faster. And in the world of shopping and deal making and these deal sites, things move fast and they need to be able to keep up with that. So that's another success story we wanted to highlight here. With that, I will throw it back over to Jennifer. We want to go ahead and do some Q&A here. I know we're running short on time. I didn't want to feel like we were rushing through those last few slides, but I do want to make sure we allow time for questions as well. So with that, Jen, back over to you.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Genesis. That was a lot of great information. I think everyone's going to be excited to have the leave behind materials after this and the recording to go through it again and digest it and probably share it with their team. So thank you guys. That was awesome. Well, we have a few questions that were sent to us in advance, but if you have a current question right now, audience, you can actually go down to that little button on the bottom right where it has the question mark. It says questions. You can just type in your question right there, and I will try to get to them all during this time. But the first question to start off with that was sent to us was, and maybe Matt, you can answer this first, and then Genesis, if you want to chime in. How is Narrativa different from ChatGPT? And could I use ChatGPT? Well, and why couldn't I use ChatGPT? That's what they asked.
Awesome. This
Matt,
is a great question. In fact, in a lot of demos we give, this is probably the most common question. Actually, we are a generative AI content automation platform. I said that just a few minutes ago. ChatGPT is a chatbot, right? You give it a question, you give it a prompt, you give it an input essentially, and it generates one output. Data is kept private and secure with Narrativa. It's not used for machine learning or training. That's not the case with ChatGPT, as far as we know. Content's really created at scale, which is what I was getting at with these automations. They incorporate those data points with Narrativa. Entering one prompt in and getting one response with ChatGPT, well, that's great. I use ChatGPT every day. I think it's a wonderful tool, but it has its uses, right? It's meant for more of a one-off kind of scenario. With Narrativa, you actually introduce a singular prompt, and that prompt is scaled across an entire data set that might be thousands of rows long. You're doing that once to create all of the content that you need. So it's automating those processes. With ChatGPT, entering that one input and getting an output, or getting an output back from that, that's a lot of copying and pasting, and it's just not an efficient process. With Narrativa, these data points become plug and play. And I encourage anyone who wants to talk about that after, shoot me an email and we can go through it a little bit more in detail. But you incorporate data points in plug and play fashion, so your prompt will interject the specific context that you need it to have, and again, scale that across an entire data set. It's really, really powerful. But that's essentially it. They're two different things. They're apples and oranges, essentially. They're not really to be used or meant to be used for the same purposes.
That's good. And then thank you, Matt. And we have another question here in the chat. Can small businesses benefit from generative AI, or is it mainly for larger companies with more resources? Genesis, you want to take a stab at that one?
Oh, I think generative AI and all the different tools that are available, I think benefits small businesses greatly. And when I say small businesses, I mean, so there's micro kind of size businesses, 9 employees and less, and then smaller businesses, maybe 10 to 50, medium size and that type of thing. So depending on the type of KPIs that you have for your organization, absolutely, whether it be article generation, content generation, research again on competitors. Simply, if you basically need to create ads, you have data, or you have a query yourself that you can input into an image generator and create ads against, those type of things. And there's a lot of now optimized media. So the big media provider basically didn't have AI for the longest time. Trade Desk, which is based out in California. So if you wanted to programmatically buy an ad, you would just do a media buy, and then they would just throw your ad into all the relevant places that your customers are kind of looking at. They now have small business packages, as an example, to buy media, to get a small business and get to be more competitive against maybe even a larger business for that matter. So that, as well as obviously Google's overlay of their new ad products too as well. They used to sell only search products, paid search and those type of things. Now you'll notice that there's going to be more AI driven kind of answers to specific queries that small businesses can buy ad space against. So there's a lot of opportunities, certainly for small businesses.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Genesis. And I think we have time for probably one more. And this is a great question that someone sent in yesterday to us, is what factors play a major role in assessing data readiness within an organization, and how can companies ensure that their data meets the requirements? Maybe Matt, you start with that, and then Genesis add on to it, because that's a really important question, because AI is only as good as its data, as we always say. So Matt, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I would actually agree with that wholeheartedly. We say garbage in, garbage out, essentially, right? We want your data to be cleaned and primed and ready to go for ingestion into the platform. I'll speak to it from this perspective, and Genesis, I'll kick it over to you afterward. But when it comes to the platform, right, if your data has errant characters in it or anything like that, sure, our system can help clean it up. But if it doesn't have the right context, and if it's not presented in some sort of orderly way, then you're not data ready, and you're not ready to really use AI, I think would probably be the best way to think about that. Now, luckily here at Narrativa, we help get that data primed. We want people to use the platform. We want them to think about the ways content can be created from data, but it's only going to be as good as your data game. Your content game is only going to be as good as your data game, that is to say. So data readiness is the first step in a one-way funnel, right? Data, then we apply AI to that, and then we integrate it in a template, and then it gets sent out to your endpoint. Going back to that success story that we had with InfoBuy, The whole reason they were able to create 200,000 articles over the course of a year is because their data was ordered, it was organized, it was ready to go. And like I said, we helped them do that because they're journalists at the end of the day. And we want to make sure that we're really educating our customers on how to get data ready and get it prepared for a platform such as ours, because this is where everything's trending to. Everything's going to be rooted in data. There won't be an industry that AI does not touch. And specifically when it comes to this platform, not to put too fine a point on it, but it all starts with data. Data readiness is everything.
Yeah, taxonomy, understanding the type of data that you should aggregate: customer data, revenue data, sales data. I mean, the amount of kind of data profiles that you can create for organization is endless. And that's an important thing to identify from a high level taxonomy. What are the categories that I could even potentially aim to assemble data against? And what are your KPIs or your OKRs, objective key results, or KPIs that support the OKRs? Aligning that specifically with kind of a data exercise as well, because you don't want to basically assemble data for data's sake, but you want to do it against a KPI. That's probably a tip. If you don't have the KPIs and OKRs defined, do it before you actually do the data exercise. So anyway, with that, I'll just pass it over to Jennifer.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much, guys. It was great having you both here today, Genesis and Matt. You are a wealth of information. Again, to all of our audience, thanks for attending today. It was great to have you here. You will get a recording of this session along with, we'll send a follow-up email with the slides. And if you have any questions, reach out to us at Narrativa. If you want to talk more about AI, you want to see a demo, whatever your questions may be, they're all welcome. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you again very soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.